What's up, guys? My name is Jaelon Blandberg, and I'm an incoming D1 at the University of Connecticut School of Dental Medicine. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and I did my undergrad at Brown University where I studied business economics. During my time at Brown, I was a member of the football team, and once I finished up, I moved to Boston where I worked as a dental assistant for a year. So my dental journey started when I was pretty young. I was in about the fourth grade or so when I had an accident where I chipped my two front teeth. We weren't able to get them fixed right away, so I ended up having to spend a pretty long time with them broken. As you can imagine, that really affected my self-confidence. I didn't smile, I didn't talk to people, I was pretty quiet. I pretty much did whatever it took, to kind of hide my smile. Fast forward a couple years to when I was in high school. A local dentist actually offered to fix them for free. And, I remember that feeling that I got when I left the chair that day. I was a completely new person. I couldn't stop smiling. I wanted to talk to everybody. I wanted to meet people. It really changed my life. That kind of, pushed me into, thinking about dentistry. And then when I was in undergrad, I actually ended up shadowing a couple dentists. And, I got to see their day to day. And I was like, wow, this is something that I really could see myself doing. So then I took the prereqs, and then fast forward, I ended up working as a dental assistant. And I was like, that's when I was like, okay, this is the career for me. How did I study for the DAT? So I actually ended up spending about 4 months studying for the DAT. I used mainly DAT bootcamp and kind of supplemented it with Chad's videos, etc. So I would say for the first like 6 weeks or so, I spent time going through Ari's schedule, and then finally I was able to get a solid enough grasp of concepts to just start grinding through practice questions. The way I approached it was like, okay, like bio is like a big like part of the DAT. Like there's no way that you would be able to learn all that I personally was going to be able to learn all of that information in the 4 months that I studied. But Chem, Gen Chem, and Orgo and QR and all the other sections, I was like, I definitely can know enough to score pretty well on these exams. So my thought process was like, know enough to get a solid score in bio, but know enough to get a really good score in those other sections so that I could bump my AA up. So I would say that after I got through the content, I mainly was just doing practice problem after practice problem after practice problem. And DAT bootcamp is good because they have in like a kind of like a summary of why the right answer is right, and then they go through each wrong answer to show you why they're wrong. And I think that's the most benefit, like the biggest benefit of working with DAT bootcamp is that you kind of get like a 5-in-1. Like you get you get an explanation on the right answer, and then you learn 4 other things about the wrong answers. So definitely like use DAT bootcamp. That's probably the best resource out there. At least it was when I was studying. Talking just to mention something about like the mentality. It's a grind to get through to study for the DAT. Like it's a beast of a test. It's kind of like everything that you learned from undergrad all in one thing. So you really gotta get your mind right and be like, look, I'm going to dedicate this amount of hours per day, and I'm just going to study it. That's all I'm going to be focused on. This is what I'm going to do. And then the rest of the hours, do something you like. Do something that you find fun. Like me, I would study Monday through Saturday, and I would take Sunday completely off. I would, hang out with my buddies. I would watch football or do whatever. So, you really take advantage of that time that you have for yourself, because it is a grind. I guess when thinking about what made me stand out as an applicant, I really want to go back to like what makes a good applicant, period. So you got your good GPA, your good test scores, and good experiences. And me personally, I think that, it's good to have a good GPA. It's good to have a like good DAT, and that stuff will definitely get your foot in the door. But I think it's your experiences that really set you apart from everybody else in the application process. And for me personally, I am not your like traditional student in the sense of I didn't study biology or chemistry or any science. I studied business economics, and I studied that just because that's what I was interested in. Like, yes, I knew I wanted to be a dentist, but I took advantage of my 4 years at Brown. I was like, I'm going to study this because I like this. I was a member of the football team. Being a student athlete requires a ton of time, and it's a big commitment. You really have to be on top of your things. You have to stick to a schedule, and you have to be pretty organized. I really felt like that was a big part of my application. I was also involved in the pre-dental society at Brown. If you have a pre-dental society at your school, definitely get involved with them. They have a ton of informational sessions. They do some pre-dental societies do events with the dental schools. If you have a dental school at your school, they have a ton of opportunities to help you kind of boost your application up. And it's just great to meet people who are interested in the same thing that you're doing. Also, I think shadowing is a pretty underrated part of the application. Like, you don't know what dentistry is until you see it firsthand, if that makes sense. Like, I really didn't fully understand what dentistry was until I was actually in an office and seeing what the dentist did from the day to day. And yeah, like shadowing is like, it's not as fun, it's not as exciting as actually doing the work, but it'll definitely give you an idea of whether or not you want to do it. And I really feel like schools really look at the whole applicant. It's not just test scores and GPAs. Like, it's everything that you do that makes you you. So definitely, pursue things like it. Definitely focus on your studies, but do things that you like, do things that you enjoy, and do things that you're going to be able to talk about if you get asked on an interview. So that's my advice about applying. So unfortunately, all of my interviews were virtual. So my interview day at UConn kind of started off with a informational session hosted by one of the deans, and we kind of just went through like what the curriculum would be like, what a day as a dental student there would be like, and just it was strictly informational. And that was the first half of the day, and then the second part was it was me and two faculty members. And, I really remember having such an amazing interview experience with UConn. Like, they ask you your typical questions like why dentistry, what got you interested in this path, why UConn. But after we got through those like kind of basic questions, it was more of just like a conversation. I really felt that the faculty members were really trying to get to know me as a person, kind of, asking me about what I like to do outside of dentistry, and asked me like all kinds of things. And, I really had an awesome experience. And that also was a big reason why I ended up choosing UConn, because it really like felt like home to me, I would say my number one tip for the interview process is to know yourself. Know your resume like the back of your hand. I would say when I was getting ready for interviews and I was, going through the practice interview questions, I would realize that I really don't remember everything that I've done to get to this point. And you're going to realize that you've done so much to get there. So definitely work on knowing your resume like the back of your hand. Another tip I would say is be confident. Just you got the interview for a reason. They like you on paper, and now they just want to see who you are as a person. And to get to that point, you've already had to be a good person. So just be yourself, be confident in explaining who you are and what you do and why you want to become a dentist. So I actually ended up applying to 6 schools, and the way I approached the application process was like, I'm going to only apply to schools that I can see myself at and that I know that I would be happy at if that was the only school that I got in. And I ended up getting into 5 of the 6 schools. And the reason why I ended up sticking with UConn is one, like I mentioned earlier, like I had the best interview experience ever. I really felt like the faculty genuinely cared about what I like to do and what I was interested in, and that I really got the vibe that they really want you to succeed there. I would say another reason, which is always a plus, is that it's pass fail, and something that I don't think very many people know about UConn is that the dental students actually spend the first year and a half with the med students, and we do what's called like the integrated biomedical curriculum, which I thought was pretty cool and would be pretty helpful to me as a clinician in the future. I'd say another reason is I've been in the city pretty much my whole life, so I know the distractions that comes with, and UConn being not in a city, but not too far from a city was perfect for me. So, I just know myself, and I know I'd be distracted if I went somewhere that was in a city. So, UConn is a pretty special place, it seems like, so far. So, I can't really talk about my transition from being a pre-dent to a dental student, but I can talk about is I did a program that was kind of like an intro to what the curriculum is going to be at UConn, where I did like the team-based learning exercises, and I did like some intro to lab stuff, and it was like, I wouldn't say the content necessarily is more difficult than what you have been doing in undergrad. If anything, it's a little bit easier, I don't know, but the volume of content that you're expected to get through is definitely a lot more than you are used to in undergrad. So definitely, I would like during that summer session, I was really focused on just trying to figure out how I can take a lot of information and shove it into my brain the quickest and most efficient way possible. So that was kind of my goal with that program, and I think that I kind of found a couple things that work for me that I'll probably use for the first few weeks and see how it goes, and then kind of adjust from there. I would say a big thing about dental school, and I think the name of the game for me, is to be able to adjust. Like, don't get stuck on doing one thing, and if that one thing doesn't work, it is okay to try something else. Like, also, like, find out the hours of the day that you are most productive. Like, for me, it was the mornings. So I would get up at 5:30, study from 6 to 8, and for whatever reason, that was just my prime time for learning. So, whether that be 6 to 8 for you or 10 to midnight, you just got to kind of find it out. And if it ends up changing over time, that's okay too. So, kind of just figure out what works for you and, grind. I mean, honestly, that's all you got to do. If you work, the results will follow. I would say that the thing I'm most excited about at the start of school is the team-based learning. I had an opportunity to kind of do it in the summer program that I did, and I just found it to be so helpful in approaching problems and kind of in my learning just in general. So the way classes worked, or at least the way they worked in the summer, was you would take a quiz by yourself, and then you would take that same quiz with a team. And then after you're done going through the quiz with the team, then you would go through it with the whole class, and they would call on somebody at random in the whole class and kind of talk about your team's answer, why you think the right answer is right, and why the wrong answers are wrong. And When going through those answers with my team, I always found that even though like I knew the right answer or like had an idea of the right answer, and when I was going through my thought process, it was one of my team members always had something like a different approach to it. And, something that I personally never would have considered or like even thought of. And now like I kind of get to add that to how I approach problems, So I really, really love the team-based learning. I'm really excited to get started with that. My biggest piece of advice for pre-dents is to keep moving forward. It is a long, long journey that you're embarking on. From day one of undergrad to day one of D1, that is a long time. And there's a lot that goes into that. So, it could be a little overwhelming at times. Just make sure that you keep moving forward and keep doing what you have to do to get to your end goal. And if your end goal is dental school, you will get there if you put in the work. That's my number one thing, that piece of advice for pre-dents is just keep moving forward. If anybody has any questions or anything for me about my journey or any questions about UConn or school, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. My IG is Jaelon B_21. That's JAELON_21. It was a pleasure.